So recently, I've been playing some board games. They're kind of like if video games were real, and some of these board games, they were actually pretty good. Let me tell you folks, these things, they've come a long way since Pac-Man, the board game. Okay, look, normally I try and do some kind of daft framing or setup device for these videos, some kind of goofy bit or otherwise silly introduction that features a Hollywood A-lister like Adrian Brody or George Clooney, but it's not happening today. I'm melting, I'm fading, I actually might die for real. It's hot, all right? The UK is in the middle of a hot wave, and it's not a good time to be making a YouTube video or indeed doing anything at all. But nevertheless, I am going to brave the slow curtain of sweat descending across the entire surface area of my body to bring you a list of 5 great games. I know, no need to thank me for my sacrifice. It's a hard job to do, but someone's got to do it. Okay, that's quite enough. Thank you. Rattlesnake is a splendid little card game that is tinged with just a touch of sadness. This card game box-sized box is kind of the last release out of the phenomenal publisher Osprey Games, before Bloomsbury, their owner, started looking to sell them. And I'm holding out hope that they find a good buyer soon, because over the years, Osprey have put out a huge number of wicked releases, just an absolute smorgasbord of dependable classics and experimental oddities. Osprey Games,
I'm gonna buy you.
I've got the money. And I got some components so you can make
Games?
What else could you possibly want? I got a sofa you can sleep on, and I'll even do your laundry, but not pants. Not pants, because I respect you too much. Just let me know what you think, okay? Just let me know. I'm chill either way.
I love you.
Rattlesnake is a 2-player only card game where players take the role of Wild West duelers having a duel. A real duel, to the death. But this duel is not a stiff high noon quick draw, a single bullet placed from a smoking barrel, but instead is a scrappy spat of glass and dust and shrapnel. And it's super simple to play. You take turns doing just 2 actions, buying cards and playing cards. To buy a card, you have to bin cards. Dump 2 of them into your personal discard pile to take your pick of shiny new ones from this market, adding your choice into your hand immediately. And playing cards is the entire rest of the game. You can slap down any number of cards in front of you to form an attack, and your opponent does exactly the same to form their defense. You flip the cards face up, and the best combo wins. More cards beats fewer, and sets beat runs. If your attacking set is better than their defending set, then the opponent takes a hit, and 4 hits, and the game is yours. It's super simple, right? You bounce back and forth, playing sets, trading blows, maybe chucking in the odd bluff here and there, forcing your opponent to waste a perfectly good hand defending themselves against something that's actually nothing at all. Now that is all fun enough, but Rattlesnake has a perfect one of those rules, the kind that you perch at the end of your teach like a shot of rum soaking the cardboard ladyfingers in your rules tiramisu. You see, all of these cards have effects at the bottom, which will let you manipulate the values of your cards, make your attacks deal double damage, or mill through your personal deck just a little bit quicker. And crucially, these cards can be played whenever you want, entirely outside of the cramped cage that is turn order, which allows for a huge cluster of potential interactions to arise from very simple little slugs of text. You're under fire from a particularly nasty set, so you dodge and roll into cover and force a redraw. You are certain that you can beat the cards in front of your opponent if you just take a second to reload all this crud out of your hand. You'll chuck out a little salvo to put them on edge and then whack them with the quick draw. It's these zippy little effects that make Rattlesnake feel like such a nasty little bruise-up. The art and the name and the effect of these cards all harmonizing into a perfect mental image and accompanying mental sound effect. And the limitations to things that you could do on your turn means that this game is so rapid, it's immediate, it's snappy, it's played entirely with your gut, often reinforced with the slightly silly events that begin to clog up the shop as the game goes on. but it never tips over the edge and gets too silly. It always rewards a smart decision. A savvy scout that's used to plop a 5 right at the top of your deck in anticipation for a pre-planned dodge and roll. Or utilizing a whole pattern of effects that trims your deck into an unbeatable cluster. There's just an abundance of these little touches that really round out this game into something thematic and frothy in just this many cards. I don't know how many cards this is. And that's especially true for the art, where it's just really nice to see Roland McDonald cut loose a little bit. He's best known for the Undaunted series, where he's drawn endless, slightly somber illustrations of soldiers you're about to feel really, 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 really bad about killing.
Hey! That's 2 strawberries.
The art in Rattlesnake gets to be a little bit more pulpy and action-packed. There's a real sense of motion and impact in these scratchy blasts of line work and little quips on some of the cards. You get the sense that it was all really fun to draw. And rightly so, this is such a lively little stack of cards. I keep on taking it to the pub, and it keeps on delivering. Now, truth be told, I have only played a slight smattering of Yonder, a pretty pathetic clutch of games that I could comfortably count on one foot. But I wanted to highlight it here because it has a whole bunch of curious mechanics that it wrings a whole load of odd juice from. See, Yonder is a worker placement game, but with a whole jambalaya of different workers to place. That's 5. 5 different worklets for you to place. And they've all got unique effects. Dwarves are great at building stuff, so they give you discounts when placed on the relevant spaces. Elves are friendly/creepy, so they'll share spaces that would normally be entirely occupied by your opponents. Ogres will pull double resources from gathering spaces, but they cost twice as much food to feed. Oh, your workers cost food to feed? Yes. Yes, they do. Just like Old Faithful, you have to feed your growing family of fantasy creatures. Most of the different kinds of workers will just cost you a single food each round, except for the aforementioned ogres, which need double, and the skeletons, which need none at all, because they had breakfast. But keeping your non-skeletons fed is also curiously wrinkled by the different kinds of food that you have to feed them with. Grain is your bog standard option, but meat will feed 2 workers at once, and fish will sell for points if it goes unused. But neither of those fancier options can be held between rounds because they will spoil. And what's even more interesting is that you may not need to feed your workers at the end of the round. If you place them in your personal tableau in front of you, then sure, they'll return to you and you gotta give them a little grain, otherwise they'll starve. But placing them on the main board means that at the end of the round they'll return to the general supply, which means you don't have to feed them, but you also miss out on being able to place them next round. Even more devilish is the opportunity to place a worker in your opponent's tableau, which gifts them a worker that they didn't have previously. Sure, that's bad, but it's another hungry mouth that they may or may not be able to feed. It's cool, right? I really love that Yonder has this very strange ecosystem of worker placement, but I also love how it imbues that ecosystem with thematic and understandable specifics. It gives these simple bits of wood a little bit more personality, and it introduces some tricksy gameplay implications. And that's just the first of the slightly weird systems that are packed into this box. Your primary way of actually scoring points in this game comes from these contracts that line the side of the board. You can pluck one from the market and fulfill its criteria to score some points, depending on which round of the game it is. Earlier contracts are worth more than later ones. But here is the twist. Like most contracts in real life, but inexplicably not in board games, these contracts are not one and done. You have to fulfill them every round. Required to cough something up for a prospective buyer every single round from the moment you go into business with them until the end of the game. And if you don't fulfill their contract, they get annoyed, they storm off, they cost you some points, and that's just very sad. It's again really fresh, and the game revolves around negotiating these contracts. You could focus on making a sturdy engine to routinely fulfill these long-term orders, or maybe you just take a big point surge now without necessarily having the infrastructure to support it long-term. Either way, your ability to fulfill these contracts is also prone to a little bit of sabotage. Someone might see that you need to make a steady delivery of fish every round and plonk an ogre right on your fish creation space, squeezing your ability to deliver on your contracts and also stretching your food supply even further. And that's not all. The tableau that you're building is also pretty cool and weird and twisty. Yes, there's initially a run of pretty simple stuff to get your economy running, like a place to get more fish and a place to get more grain, but there's also a skeleton maker. I love Skeleton Maker. It's a card that, in exchange for a regular worker, gets you a skeleton and some meat, which is disgusting and beautiful. It's even more nasty when combined with this goblin soup boat. You're attracting innocent gobbos to be turned into unceasing labor and ogre food. Ah yes, I remember my skeleton engine vividly. Or my ogre bodybuilders that I made from reversing skeletons. Maybe I just really like saying skeleton. Look, every engine that you build in this game is going to introduce its own set of quirks, its own weird little narrative that you'll play in the space of, and I just think that's really neat. Yonder's got a lot of ideas going on, but I think it does well to weave those ideas together into something that's very unique and very charming, even if I am slightly perturbed by those goblin baby boomers. Shut Up and Sit Down have got an exclusive scoop for you. Bombbusters is a good game. So good, in fact, that it's only gone and won the 2025 Spiel des Jahres. Look at that! Our powers of prediction know no bounds. We're just so good at this. In all seriousness, I do feel a kind of shameful duty to cover this one. It completely passed us by when it came out. I don't know why. I just assumed it was all right, I guess. And now having played it a whole bunch, I can confirm that it's really good. Those boffins, those German boffins, der eggheads, they know what they're talking about. This is a cooperative deduction puzzle game. If you're a The Crew or Hanabi or Take Time enjoyer, then this will snugly fit within that roster. If you like feeling smart and being wrong, then this game has that in spades. At least for me, your mileage may vary. At the start of each scenario, each player has a rack of these spindly cardboard tiles in front of them, tiles with values ranging from 1 through 13. And each one of these tiles represents a wire on a bomb that you're gonna have to defuse, or this cute rabbit is going to explode. So, how are you going to defuse it? Well, across all of the players around the table, across all of their racks of wires, there are exactly 4 of each number of wire. And it's your job to reveal every single one of them safely. And the way you do this is by asking questions. You point at a wire on their rack and ask, is this a 1? Is that one a 4? Surely this one's a 10. The way you make these deductions is using the knowledge that the tiles on their rack and the tiles on your rack are arranged in order. So if I know that this tile is a 1 and this tile is a 7, then perhaps this one in the middle is going to be the 6 that we're looking for. Bada bing, bada boom. What an example. If your guess is correct, then you reveal a matching tile from your rack, giving you more information to make deductions of in future turns. But if you're wrong, they tell you what the tile is, sure, but you tick one step closer to exploding. That's the very basics. You're leaning on simple deductions to narrow down the search to find that last pesky 5. It's got a lovely learning curve as you start to appreciate how this very simple rule set can be sort of pushed against to give up all these juicy nuggets of information, or just how listening to your teammates' guesses might steer you in the right direction of a deduction that they want you to make. And it's good! It's really cool! It's a cracking entry into this subgenre of cooperative deduction games. But Bombbuster's real strength is on how it iterates on these mechanics over a 66 mission campaign. The early, non-spoilery missions introduce the rest of the basic mechanics bit by bit. There's yellow wires that gently skew your deductions, and red wires that need to be avoided at all costs, because snipping them is an instant detonation. But to help combat this increasing challenge, you're drip-fed useful equipment that can illuminate the missing bits of the puzzle, only unlocked once you've snipped a certain number of wire. And these equipment cards are great. They keep the tension high at the start, and they'll steer your communicable strategy at the top of the round. Each bomb presents its own unique puzzle to solve, both in the silent deductive space and in the top-down strategic space. And I don't want to underestimate the tension either. There's a real magic in Bombusters' design that I can't quite put my finger on, but it's a magic that makes everyone around the table feel just a little bit queasy. I think it's something to do with the slightly foggy information that you get given, combined with the ever-present danger of those instant losses. But that uncertainty often gives way to a flurry of guesses. A tiny little sliver of information can almost always be used to make a few different deductions around the table, and suddenly you're slapping down wires left and right. It's a super satisfying ebb and flow to the puzzle. And once you've gotten through your initial training, which is itself a great little bundle of game, you're then sent into the field to take on a whole host of different themed challenges. Each of these unlockable boxes packing in a few novel mechanics to wrap your collective noggin around, and a kind of boss plastered on the tuck box lid that you're taking on this time. Let's call them what they are, okay? They're terrorists. They're adorable terrorists. And these are all great. I haven't finished all of them, and I will not spoil all of them, but I will set expectations. There's nothing completely bonkers in these boxes. There's not like an actual bomb or something. They're mostly just little tweaks and gentle additions to the puzzle that kind of unsolves it and forces you to think of it in new and interesting ways. The strength of Bombusters comes from how thematic and punchy the core game is, but the vitality arises from all the different ways it keeps refreshing and reinvigorating that core. It's just really solid. The core puzzle is great, the presentation is stellar, and the ways in which it messes with its own mechanics is just fantastically sharp. The only downside here might be the somewhat restrictive player count. My core group for games is 3 players, and it always feels like we're slightly missing out on the excellent 4-player experience. You can still play it at 3, it just feels so good at 4 that any other player count doesn't quite feel as sharp. Apart from that, it's a good game. I don't know what to tell you. All of these, they're good games. I am cheating a little bit here because Herd isn't really a board game in the traditional sense. It's essentially just a solo puzzle book with some nice clacky components that also happens to come in a board game sized box, which of course makes it a liar. Now Herd might be a fundamentally untrustworthy little cabinet of deceit, but we'll give it a pass here, because it also happens to be a little nifty set of puzzles. This is the latest curiosity from designer/artist/musician and all-round talent Blaj Urban Gretzar, who most recently graced Shut Up and Sit Down with the adorably tricksy Lock, a pocket-sized puzzle book that was recently made into an absolutely slappin' mobile app. Lock is great. I fell in love with the book and honeymooned my way through the app. But as much as I loved it, I was slightly baffled and confounded by the little books that followed it. Abdeck and Work, Work, Work both felt like I was trying to push my brain one section at a time through a potato ricer. I think a lot of my difficulty with those books in particular stemmed not from the puzzles themselves, but more that they began to push against the possibilities of pencil and paper. They fundamentally required you to hold an entire lumpy mattress of information in your brain at any given time, or else despoil your pristine notebook with a steady dribble of wrong thoughts. Herd, I think, represents the sensible solution, no less quirky or challenging or charming, but a lot easier to hold in your head by virtue of it being this big print book and nice little tactile components that you can nudge around. And nudge them around you will, because Herd is a sliding puzzle at its core. These shepherd pieces will drift in the direction they're nudged until they smack up against a wall or perhaps each other. Use this gliding property to steer them towards predetermined exits. But very soon, we are introduced to the titular Herd, these white pieces that don't move on their own accord, but rather are stacked on top of and shepherded to their destination. Those are the very basics, and the game gets a lot of mileage out of even just those basic fundamentals. But, of course, along the way, you're introduced to a suite of new mechanics to tussle with. Mechanics that I won't spoil, save for the stuff that's evidently apparent when you open the box. Oh boy, I hope I don't ever have to herd this herd. I hate to break it to you, pal, You're gonna herd that herd, and you're also gonna herd this herd. Each little system is given plenty of room to breathe, explored fully, and then built on top of to create these dense puzzle boxes that never feel too complex, often relying on a single clicky moment to pull them together into your head. I did a lot of ahs, okay? A lot of ahs are in this one. In all honesty, I feel maddeningly out of my depth when it comes to talking about puzzle games. I just do not have the vocabulary to describe what I do and don't like about the individual puzzles presented. Whenever I talk about them, I always feel like I'm reviewing a restaurant by talking about the size of the table, the font choice on the menu, the front door. Buddy, how's the food? I don't know, good, hearty, tasty? One of the above? It's a good puzzle game, okay? I've really enjoyed solving my way through it, even as someone who would count themselves very much in the camp of not being very good at solving puzzles. So far, and I've not finished it yet, a little disclaimer there, I found it to be a really zen experience, best enjoyed next to an open window with a cold drink and a nice soundtrack. And something about the big tactile nature of the book means that it's shareable as well. It's the kind of thing you can leave tantalizingly out on the table for a friend or partner to nudge around whilst they're having some cereal. And I love that. I think it speaks to the fundamental approachability of this box, despite housing some pretty fiendish and tricky puzzles. It's great stuff. Blaz makes puzzle games that do really tickle my brain. Now turn it into an app so that I can play it on the toilet. And finally, No Loose Ends is another entry into my growing library of trick takers with a twist. But in this one, you've done a crime. Decide the nature of the crime you've committed amongst yourselves before starting. My preferred crime is arson. The card play follows the rules of a standard trick taker. You win tricks by playing the highest trump or highest of the lead suit. But the twist comes from how you set up each hand to actually score points. Rather than traditional bidding, you take cards out of your hand as evidence that you need to cover up. So in practical terms, if I put down this red 5 as evidence in front of me, I would need to win a trick with a red card, with a 5 card, or I would need to win a trick that was led with a red card, even if I actually won it with one of these blue trump cards. Each trick you win gets plonked on top of the matching evidence, and each bit of evidence you cover up in this way nets you 2 points. With the most points after 3 rounds getting away with their arson the most.
But
The real twist is every trick that you win without an associated piece of evidence becomes one of the titular loose ends, and they will cost you 1 point each. It's a setup that's classic and sharp and simple, but it's got lots of detail in there in how you might manipulate that simple play into straight up points. And I love that it gives such clear and readable intents for everyone around the table. It means this is a game where you immediately get into the mindset of how best to screw over everyone else around the table. Wizard is probably still my go-to introduction to trick takers because of how simple it is, sure, but also how cruel and funny it can so often be, stemming from those super visible bids and accessible levers to interrupt them. No Loose Ends has that feeling in spades. Oh, you want to do something so bold as to win a trick, huh? Well, I guess you're about to win every trick in the game and become responsible for all the arson we're doing. There's also a really lush little extra rule I like to explain to people after we've played the first hand of No Loose Ends. You can elect to become a snitch instead of taking part in the regular bidding process. If you bid 0 cards and win 0 tricks, you score 10 clean points, and everyone else's loose ends will cost them 2 points rather than just 1. And I love this final twist, mostly because of how comically hostile the table becomes towards the snitch. You have wronged everybody cosmically in your refusal to play the same horrible game that they're being forced to play, and you shall suffer accordingly. It fits, right? Super thematic. Snitches win trickses. No Loose Ends is a belter of a game with some gorgeous presentation, though I will say, as is often the case with card games, why they make the box so big? Look at all this air. This is one of the card games that I'm about to subject to my truly awful and patented just a bag storage solution. I'll perch it right next to my magenta games for contrast. And that is 5 entire games that I quite liked, and you might like too. If you want to see more of this kind of video, then I've done a whole bunch of these sorts of things. There'll probably be footage of them scrolling past on the screen right now. Don't I look cool and handsome? Normally there would be some kind of ending bit here, like a little skit or goof or joke to send us off with, but not today. It's too warm. This part of the video is going to abruptly cut to black as a sort of kindness to the future editing me.